this just means secular history, history that is not religious, it tells us that idolatry originated in the area of Babylonia, the most ancient of religious systems. So this is where idolatry began. It began in Babylon. We read about that in the Bible. Okay? But then we also read about in the last book of the Bible about Mystery Babylon. And we read that that woman that had that on her forehead came out of this place of 7 mountains or 7 hills. That's Rome. Let's go to Judges, the second chapter. Because we read about the children of Israel, and you know, the laws, the statutes, the commandments, the judgments, the ordinances of God were revealed unto this people. He said, only you have I known of all the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. Paul said, what advantage doth have the Jew, and what profit is there of circumcision? Much chiefly in every way, where to them were committed the oracles of God. He manifested himself unto one people. He came down on the mount was on fire. They saw God. He gave them the law, but even they went astray. And let's see what they became engaged in. This is Judges, the second chapter. Let's pick it up at verse 8. The Judges is the time before they had kings. They had these judges, mainly men that would rise up and lead the people out of oftentimes persecution that they were facing as a consequence for sin. But now this is Judges 2 and verse 8. When you're ready, brother, go ahead.
And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died being 110 years old.
Now Joshua, we read in Joshua 24 how he charged the people to put away your idolatry and serve the Lord. He said, that's what me and my house are going to do. We're going to serve the Lord. So it said, and Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died being 110 years old. Verse 9.
And they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath Heres, in the mountain of Ephraim, on the north side of the hill Gash. And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel.
So another generation came up, and they didn't know. And that's one thing about Torah. It's commanded in Torah that men teach their children the law. Generation after generation after generation should understand what you need to do. But it only takes a lapse in one generation to fall off. You fall off, it's just like now, you see a total disconnection between the current generation and the past generation. So that means that this generation doesn't have the insight that that former generation could provide for them, so they don't know which way to go. So when he died and this other generation came up, it said, and knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. Verse 11, what did these people start to do?
And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim.
So now they're starting to serve Baal. Let's keep reading.
And they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, of the gods of the people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger.
So they started to do just like everybody else. Go ahead.
And they forsook the Lord, and served Baal and Ashtoreth.
They served Baal and Ashtoreth, which is a fertility goddess. Go ahead.
And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of the spoilers that spoiled them.
Because he brought punishment because of their rebellion. Let's keep reading.
And he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Whithersoever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for evil, as the Lord has said, and as the Lord has sworn unto them, and they were greatly distressed.
Okay, so now they caught that because they sinned against God. Well, who is Baal and Ashtoreth? This is from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia under Ashtoreth. The name Ashtoreth and cult of the goddess were derived from where? Babylonia. Where Ishtar, which is where you get the word Easter from, by the way, represented the evening and morning stars. In Babylonia and Assyria, Ishtar was the goddess of love and war. An old Babylonian legend related how the descent of Ishtar into Hades in search of her dead husband. The other goddesses of Babylonia were little more than reflections of the god, tended to merge into Ishtar, who thus became a type of the female divinity, a personification of the productive principle of nature. And that's what man will do. When I say man, I mean mankind. They will see a principle that is in nature or that they experience, and they will personify it and begin to worship it. So when you see the principle of reproduction, the principle of reproduction is in human beings, it's in animals, and it's in plants. So that principle they will personify. It says, and more especially the mother and creatures of mankind. It says the chief seat of the worship of Ishtar in Babylonia was Erech, which is a place that we read about when we read in Genesis. Then it says something, where prostitution was practiced in her name. So you had sacred prostitution being practiced. And it says, and she was served with immoral rites by bands of men and women. But where did it come from? Babylon. It came from Babylon. This is from the dying god. The hidden history of Western civilization. Well, hold on, we'll read it. It said the worship of Baal or Marduk seems to have been derived from the cult of Tammuz, revered in Babylon and Syria, known as the shepherd. Tammuz's marriage to the goddess Ishtar was dramatically reenacted during February and March, where the king actually took on the identity of God, and by copulating with the priestess, incarnating the goddess, he was thought to fertilize all of nature for the year. That's what people are dealing with. Let's go to Jeremiah. Even now we read it. Now that's what they were dealing with back then. People don't realize they're dealing with the same thing today. We're going to get there. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah the 7th chapter. Jeremiah is right next to the book of Isaiah. Jeremiah the 7th chapter. And we'll pick it up at verse 9. Jeremiah 7 and verse 9. And when you're ready, brother, you go ahead.
Will ye steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom ye know not?
So now, he has to tell his people, he's giving them this message through Jeremiah the prophet. This is the message that they received at the temple. He asked them, will ye steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom ye know not, and then do what? Verse 10.
And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations.
The audacity, the nerve, the unmitigated gall to do all these things that are not like God, that are sin, and then say we are delivered to do all these abominations in his house. Now, let's skip down to verse 14. When you're ready, go ahead.
Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein ye trust, and unto this place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I will cast you out of my sight, and I will cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim.
So he says, just like when he did in Shiloh, he destroyed Shiloh. Okay? That's the city of North Jerusalem. He destroyed it back in the days of Samuel. But let's keep reading. Because he said, I'm going to cast you out of my sight as I have cast out all your brethren. What he meant by that, he meant that the 10 tribes prior to this were cast into slavery. They were taken into captivity by the Assyrians in 721, 722 BC. That's what he said. That's what he's referring to when he says Ephraim. That's another way to say the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom. But now let's keep reading.
Verse 16. Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear thee. Because
they don't have a repentant heart. And sometimes it's simply time for judgment. See, when you look at what's coming on in this world and what this world is engaged in, and even in this country, the immorality, at a certain point, the cup of iniquity reaches its brim, and it's about judgment. But let's keep reading. Let's keep going.
Seest thou not what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem?
He said, look, there's judgment coming. Look at what these people are doing. What are they doing?
The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, And the women knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven.
So they're worshiping this queen of heaven. Let's keep reading.
And to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger, saith the Lord? Do they not provoke themselves to confusion of their own faces?
To the confusion of their own faces. They're doing this to their own detriment. And they rejected the words of Jeremiah, and eventually the Babylonians came and took Israel into captivity in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. Let's go to, we're still in Jeremiah, let's go to Jeremiah the 44th chapter. Because Israel is going after this false worship wholesale. Immoral actions, false worship, just like the worship of the people that are around them. Just like the worship they were engaged in prior to crossing over the flood of the Euphrates River. Let's go to, we're in 44, and let's pick it up at verse 4. When you're ready, brother, go ahead.
Howbeit I sent unto you all my servants the prophets, rising early and sending them, saying, Oh, do not this abominable thing that I hate.
So the Lord in his mercy, when he saw Israel engaged in falsehood and immorality and abominable works, he would send a man of God to the people to warn them to turn from their wicked ways. That's his mercy. But did they listen? Go ahead.
But they hearken not, nor incline their ear to turn from their wickedness, to burn no incense unto other gods.
Go ahead.
Wherefore my fury and mine anger was poured forth, and was kindled in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, and they are wasted and desolate as at this day.
I talked at the beginning about how you must worship God correctly. You must worship him according to truth. So now, you need to also understand that if you don't do that, there are consequences. There are consequences for false worship. It's not as if we are free agents. We are not robots. He's given us free will. But we don't have the right to go against what a sovereign God has told us to do. Judgment is coming. Let's keep reading. Where we at?
7.
Let's skip down to verse 15. When you're ready, brother, go ahead.
15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt, and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying...
Now, I know they're going to listen to the prophet Jeremiah, right?
Nope.
Let's see what they say.
As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee.
So, this is what they said. As for the word thou hast spoken unto us in your own name, it said, in the name of the Lord, we will not listen or hearken unto thee. But what will they continue to do? Verse 17.
But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the queen of heaven.
Here we had a queen of heaven again. Let's keep reading.
And to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil.
So they say, hey, listen, when we were serving this queen of heaven, everything was right. Everything was going well. When we stopped serving this queen of heaven, that's when the trouble started, which is not the case. But now let's keep reading.
But since we left off to burn incense to the queen of heaven,
since we stopped burning incense to the queen of heaven, go ahead.
And to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine.
But they were consumed by the sword and by famine. And these were the Jews that had tried to escape and go into Egypt, but they were consumed because they turned from the true and living God. Their blessings are turned into curses for disobedience. But now let's go to verse. We read 19 yet?
We didn't read 19.
Go ahead, read that one.
And when we burned incense to the queen of heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men?
Without their husbands. So that's what they were doing. Now let's go to Ezekiel. This is book right after Jeremiah. Well, you got Jeremiah, Lamentations, then Ezekiel. What's that? Do I have that on there? Oh, go ahead. My apologies. Let's turn back. I got ahead of myself. Thank you. That's good. You paying attention. Thank you. Jeremiah 44, and what we at now?
Verse 20.
Thank you.
This is Jeremiah 44 and 20. Then Jeremiah said unto all the people, and to the men, and to the women, and to all the people which had given him that answer, saying, The incense that ye burn in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, ye and your fathers, your kings and your princes, and the people of the land, did not the Lord remember them, and came it not into his mind, so that the Lord could no longer bear because of the evil of your doing?
See, if he is a righteous God has to bring forth punishment for sin. That's part of his righteousness too. He's merciful, he's loving, but he's also is wrathful. He also will bring about a judgment. If he doesn't bring about a judgment eventually for sin, he's actually not executing justice. Let's keep reading.
And because of the abominations which ye have committed, therefore is your land a desolation and an astonishment and a curse, without an inhabitant as at this day.
And we should also understand that that goes on in our own lives, individual lives as well, not just for a nation. But each and every one of us is going to have to give an account for the things that we have done or have failed to do. Let's go to Ezekiel, right? Yep. Ezekiel the 8th chapter. Glad you're paying attention. Ezekiel the 8th chapter, and let's pick it up at verse 5. Because again, another one that's sent unto this people talks about the falsehood, the false worship. We're in Ezekiel 8, chapter 8, and we'll pick it up at verse 5. He has a message. When you're ready, go ahead. And a lot of these, just before you start, a lot of these prophets, they were contemporaries. You had more than one prophet prophesying unto the people, and they all did not want to hear. Don't prophesy unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceit. But we're in Ezekiel 8 and 5. When you're ready, brother, go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now, the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold,